Have you opened your phone recently and you've just seen things like housing's completely unaffordable, Gen Z will never own homes, rent is out of control, wages aren't keeping up with inflation, nobody likes their job, you need three side hustles just to survive? Like, the thing is, none of that stuff is fake. There's a reason we all see it on our phone, but I think that's why it makes it hit so hard. Because it's not just like one post and it's not just like one bad headline. It's every time you open your phone, you get another piece of evidence that things aren't really working. And after a while, you don't react to it anymore and you just kind of accept it. Like, yeah, this is just how things are now. And eventually that turns into something more subtle. And you start asking yourself, so what's the point of trying? And it's not really in a dramatic way, not in a loud way. It's just kind of somewhere that starts in the back of your mind and exponentially grows as you see more and more things that tell that part of your brain what's the point. And I think that's where things start to get really dangerous for Gen Z. The weird part about all this is it's not like anybody ever explicitly told us, yeah, it's over. Because after seeing all of that over and over again, your brain kind of just starts putting it together on its own. And it's not all at once, it's just slowly. And at first, it's just, damn, things are getting expensive. And then it becomes, okay, this is actually really kind of bad. And then eventually it turns into, I don't really see how this works out. And that's the shift. Because now it's not just information anymore, it turns into a belief. Not like a loud, dramatic belief either, more like something that's going on in the background. This probably isn't going to work. And once that's there, everything else starts getting filtered through it. So instead of thinking, this is hard, but I'll try anyway, you start thinking, this is hard and probably not worth trying. And that's where it changes. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't want more, but because the picture you've been shown doesn't look like there's a path forward. If all you ever see is evidence that things don't work out, your brain eventually stops believing that they can. And that's where I think this gets really dangerous because you haven't even failed yet, but your brain has already decided that this is how it ends and that it's already failed. You're not losing because you tried and failed, you're losing because you never fully started. And that's where I started noticing something fell off with our generation. I think the biggest thing feeding this mindset is something that we all do every day. You feel stuck, you feel behind, things are hard. So, what are you naturally going to do? You just kind of go on your phone. And I don't think it's even in a bad way. It's just kind of like, I just need to chill out for a minute. Like, this is too much. And for a second, it works and it actually feels good. Like, you start watching videos, you're scrolling, laughing, or like texting your friend or sending your friend funny memes, and you're getting that hit of dopamine that you desperately need. But then every few seconds, your brain's kind of like, yeah, this is way better than thinking about real life. But then in between that, you're also seeing stuff like people making money, people buying houses, people saying everything's broken. And then you got people talking about how impossible everything is. So it's like you're getting both ideas at once. You're getting comfort and constant reminders that things aren't working. And it's kind of crazy because the same place you go to escape feeling stuck constantly reminds you that you are. And now you're in this loop. You feel behind, you go on your phone. You go on your phone, you feel worse. You feel worse, you stay on your phone. And the crazy part, it feels like you're doing something because your brain is fully active. You're stimulated, you're engaged, but in reality, you're not really moving at all. And this is where I think Gen Z's culture of real maxing and doom scrolling is all kind of stemmed from. We're not really relaxing anymore. We're just TikTok maxing, short form slot machine maxing, whatever you have got a term for it. Like we all been there. You open your phone for 5 minutes and suddenly it's been 45 minutes. And you've watched thirty people's different lives. You've compared yourself 100 different ways to them. You've learned nothing and done nothing. And somehow your brain is like, yeah, this feels productive. Because it's the only thing that feels immediate. Because real life is slow, uncertain, and requires effort. But your phone is instant, easy, and predictable. So your brain starts leaning towards it more and more. When everything in real life feels hard, your phone starts to feel like the only thing that works. And after a while, it becomes the default. I saw something recently that I think really kind of hammers in the point that I'm trying to make here. And it's about these kids, like some teachers were talking about some kids that they took on a field trip, and they were asking them what the best part of the field trip was, and they all said that it was the bus ride. It wasn't the destination or like Six Flags or wherever they were going. It wasn't the experience. It was dead ass the bus ride, because they all just could sit there and be on their phones for like 5 hours straight. And at first I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. We're so doomed. But then I thought about it some more and I was like, I actually kind of get that, because when I was younger, I loved playing games too, but I think it was a little bit different. I definitely had my moments where we were all playing Clash of Clans and stuff, in the car on a field trip. Like when I was a kid, phone games were a little bit different. Felt like Clash of Clans was really big, and like Temple Run, like this stuff was just kind of coming out. Xbox and Wii was still pretty new, and it was still something that was way more social, like you'd play with your friends, you'd talk about it in school, you'd build stuff together and there was an actual connection there. But now kids aren't really like playing with each other like that. They're just kind of scrolling individually, side by side. Everyone's on their own feed, sending stuff to each other that maybe they look at for 2 seconds or don't even look at it and just like it. I think that's where this whole shift is coming from. It's not that we just consume more, it's that we replace doing things with watching other people do them. And when you combine that with everything you already see about life being hard, it creates this passive mindset where you start thinking, like, yeah, everything's kind of messed up, so might as well just stay here. And I think that's where it becomes a real problem, because now you're not just aware that things are harder. You've been slowly pushed into a position where doing nothing is easier, safer, and more normal than actually trying to do anything. Moving on, I think this next thing I'm going to talk about is where people might start calling me crazy and saying that this is a conspiracy theory, but we'll just touch on it lightly. And it's like these big tech companies, they know what they're doing, right? They're not stupid, and they're trying to get us to give up and consume to some extent, I think. And I don't think it's like Tim Cook sitting in a room with Zuckerberg, like with the government, like, yeah, let's make everybody give up and replace them with AI. But I do think that this is true. The system doesn't need you to try and fail. It just benefits more if you never try at all. Because if you think about it, if you're building something, improving, taking risks, you're unpredictable. But if you're scrolling, watching, consuming, you're stable, you're predictable, you're easy to monetize. It doesn't need to stop you directly. It just needs to keep you distracted long enough that you don't try. Again, I'm not saying that this is some evil master plan, but it does kind of feel like everything is optimized in one direction. And that direction's for your time, your attention, and your engagement. Like even kids now are growing up inside this system, straight into short form content, constant comparison, constant stimulation, before they even get a chance to figure things out. And it kind of reminds me of that 1984 idea where language got reduced, thought got simplified, everything becomes easier to consume, but harder to think deeply about. Not saying that we're there yet, but it kind of makes you wonder. And this is where I think that the real trap is. It's not that things are just harder, it's that you start believing they're impossible. And you do that before you even try. And once that happens, you're out. You don't build, you don't risk, you don't move. You don't lose because you never tried and failed. You lose because you never fully entered the game. And that's the point. You're exactly where the system benefits the most. Comfortable, distracted, and not moving. And I'm not above any of this either. I've had plenty of moments where I felt stuck with work, with my YouTube channel, with making music, with friends and relationships, thinking, what's the point anymore? But every time I go down that path, I notice something. That feeling usually shows up right when I've stopped actually doing anything. So yeah, things are definitely harder right now. That part is real. But I don't think the answer is deciding it's over before it even starts. Because the system might make things harder, but giving up early is what actually makes it impossible. And I think that's the part nobody really wants to talk about. You can't beat a system you've already decided you can't win.
Wake up!